What up, guys? The offensive badman Kyle Robinson coming to you today with another Warframe Wednesday video where we discuss Fortuna, the second open world in the Warframe universe located in Venus. All you have to do is click on the Venus planet and then click on the Fortuna window there in the middle and select a server, and it will port you in directly to the starting hub for Fortuna, and we're going to take a look around and see what we can find here. One thing that I think Fortuna had going for it was the wonderful story that came along with it. The short version of this story is that Nef Anyo, the Corpus leader essentially, and a guy you're probably familiar with if you've ever ran Index, he essentially buys people's debts but forces them into indentured servitude. The open world actually launches with a musical number, which is by far one of the most badass musical numbers in any video game that exists, hands down, bar none. If you haven't seen that intro video, look it up. It's fucking cool. One of the neat things that was introduced with Fortuna also is Garuda, a Warframe that is essentially a gore frame. You are able to go in, and she's a healer slash destruction frame, and she's probably one of the most brutal frames in Warframe, but is just a fuckload of fun to play, and you'll earn her from doing bounties that you receive from Utico there, as we just looked at. Garuda is definitely a grab you should pick up right as you start Fortuna. With the Fortuna expansion, it seemed like DE had learned a lot from their time in Cetus and Plains of Eidolon from the previous year. One of those things included the ability to actually receive bounties without having to go all the way back to the starting point in Cetus. That's something that they placed here in the in the Fortuna world, and we'll take a look at that right here. And then on top of that, they also learned that the day and the night cycles, while they wanted them to have a point, and they do, because it goes from warm to cold in Fortuna as opposed to day and night, they made it more of a material grind. So fish and things of that nature are more locked to the day or the warm and cold cycles, where Plains had the day and night cycles where you had to fight the Eidolon. But that doesn't mean that Fortuna didn't come with their own version of the bosses, which included both the Profit Taker and later the Exploiter Orb. The Profit Taker is available to you once you hit rank 5 in the Fortuna standings, and this was the cause of a lot of problems with people when they first started Fortuna, because they thought it was ridiculous that it was locked behind a rep grind. Personally, I thought it was a good idea to keep the content from going completely stale right out of the gate. And even though I haven't reached level 5 in Fortuna here on the PC, I have on my previous consoles or my previous versions, and the Profit Taker fight is a lot of fun. The Exploiter Orb is the other boss that comes along in Fortuna, which is part of the Deck 12 update. And this is another one of those things where DE learned from their previous experiences, and what I mean is that both of these bosses, the Profit Taker and the Exploiter Orb, are grand bosses much like the Eidolons from Plains of Eidolon, but you can trigger these boss fights at any given point. So you don't have to worry about there being a day and night cycle in order to reach these bosses, and that kind of gives players a lot of free run to go and grind out these bosses as they see fit. The only catch to the Deck 12 Exploiter Orb is that you have to have Thermia, diluted Thermia, which you can obtain through the Thermia Fractures event, which comes around every 3 to 4 weeks in Warframe and part of Fortuna. And you can stock up as much Thermia as you'd like, but you do have to have Thermia to trigger the Deck 12 fight. And if you have enough Thermia, as long as somebody has one Thermia, you're golden. So just keep that in mind whenever you go to do the Deck 12 fight. One of the other neat upgrades that I thought was a real cool addition to Fortuna, if you look on the upper left-hand corner here as we run around and shoot stuff, you'll see like a wanted meter, almost akin to Grand Theft Auto. This was not in Plains of Eidolon, and I thought it was a neat addition because it gave you the option to essentially assert how many enemies you wanted to fight at a given time. For every one of those stars that goes up, more and more enemies spawn. So if you're looking for things like Torrids in Fortuna, or just looking to kill enemies for whatever reason, then the higher that star count, the better off you're going to be in the way of being able to trigger enemies. The next thing I want to touch on is the K-Drive, which was the added mobility transport in Fortuna. While not really anything game-changing in the way that it handles, it is a skateboard, which was different for Warframe, and it gave players another means to kind of transverse the environment. All of the cosmetics and stuff and mods for the K-Drives are locked within a syndicate known as the Vent Kids, and you can access them through Fortuna. And the beautiful thing about that faction is you don't have to rank it up or anything. You just do tricks, earn points, as you'll see as I do points there. The bottom right gives you the point totals. And once you reach a certain point value, you can rank up. So the K-Drive was a neat little addition to Fortuna. Finally, let's talk about the rep grind for Fortuna, which was interesting in and of itself because in Plains you had one way to gain the standing, and that was to do missions or trade in gems or fish. Those are the only real ways to do it, was to trade in resources or to complete missions. Now Fortuna added another interesting thing where you could purchase debt bonds and trade those in for parts of standing. So that was really an interesting addition to the rep grind for Fortuna, but it didn't make it any easier per se. And then you also have in the back room Little Duck, who I'm talking to here in this video. You gain a rep with her only one way, by turning in Torrids, which can be farmed from the open world of Fortuna. The overall rep grind for Fortuna wasn't the worst thing I've seen in Warframe, but a lot of people were upset because it seemed as if there was no real purpose, so to speak, for the rep grind in Fortuna. Overall, though, I think it definitely pushed the game in the right direction with the open worlds. I think they kind of came into their own with this world. And because of that, I think it helped evolve Warframe into a better game. So from top to bottom, Fortuna is a lot of fun to me. I think if you are at least willing to shoulder some of the added BS that goes with it, Fortuna is a lot of fun to play in. It's a very beautiful world, and overall I think it's something that a lot of players will be coming back to just for no other reason than to grind out certain frames and certain aspects of the game that they may otherwise not have access to. As we talk to Unico here in the back room, that concludes the Fortuna video this week. This, just as a side note, is where you'll come to access the Profit Taker once you get that option and reach level 5. The original plan for next week was to do a Deimos video, but I'm going to call an audible because I just realized last night that I had not completed the Deimos questline, which will be done probably on stream very soon. So take a look for one of those. But next week, we're going to break down the mining aspect of Warframe and its open worlds. The following week, we'll come back with Deimos. And then the 2 weeks after that, we'll talk fishing and conservation. That way, we can kind of cover all of the open world aspects of Warframe in kind of one series of videos. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any suggestions for Warframe Wednesday videos, please feel free to drop them in the comments section below. Or if you're not in the Discord, get your ass into the Discord and be sure to drop in a suggestion for the Warframe Wednesday video there. Or you can always come into the stream, which I'm live every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube, and we can talk Warframe or any other game that I'm playing at the time. Thank you guys again for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I am the Offensive Madman, reminding you that if words offend you, you can fuck off.